This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda, where of course we are going to discuss Liverpool's form. We're going to look ahead to the game against Chelsea coming up on Saturday. We'll talk about the other Champions League games that are going on, Konate's contract, a little bit about Michael Olise. But most importantly, I wanted to come on tonight to give you guys the chance to air your views, to have your say, how you feel about Liverpool right now. It's easy for us all to either hit the panic button or bury our heads in the sand, but you know me, I like dialogue. I like to try and talk these things through. So what are we saying? How are we feeling about the season so far? And should we hit the panic button? Is Arna getting it wrong? The media last night, I spent a good chunk of today reading through some of the reports from the newspapers from the game yesterday, and a lot of media, a lot of journalists were pointing to the way we're set up, the way that we're playing, and it looking disjointed. So it's not just us fans imagining it. There was also a lot of criticism for Konate's performance last night from Sky and other sections of the media, again kind of underlining the way us fans have been feeling. So the reason I do these things is because you do want to challenge your own perceptions at times, and you look at things and you think, right, am I, over-egging this? Am I exaggerating this? Am I underwhelming this? But no, it feels like the reasons we all feel we're struggling are the reasons the greater footballing world feel that we're struggling. And no identity, players not really understanding the system and the way that Arna wants to play it, and of course those new relationships building around the pitch as well. So over to you guys to have your say tonight, because I've gone through every emotion since last night: anger, denial, frustration, all of it. And I still don't understand what it is he's trying to get us to do. I'm all for saying it's a gelling process and players need to click and get together, but you need to see an identity as well. And there seems to be just more a sense of denial or not admitting that there is a problem at the minute. I'm going to take you back to one of the quotes from Arna last night that just stuck out to me, that Connor sent me after the game. And I want to just read that out to you, and again, because I don't know what game he was watching. So he said, again, disappointed because you lose. Football's about winning. This was a different performance on the ball and off the ball to last Saturday. First half, we played quite well. So I thought about that. I moaned about it last night in the match reaction, but I thought about it a bit more overnight. And the only thing that I think he could be thinking is that we were better with the football creating last night than we were against Palace in the first half, because defensively, well, we were equally as easy to get at. We were equally as open and susceptible to conceding. So whatever way the manager tries to paint the picture, I still didn't think it was a good performance last night over the course of the game, nor the first half in its isolation was worth celebrating or bigging up either. Now look, I know he has to. He has to go out into the public and put positives out there and talk about the good things that he's seen, because he can't let morale get down. But come on, it's time to really challenge now and see what the manager's made of, because this is his first real mini crisis. And a lot of people talk about players gelling, and that's fair. But I just keep coming back to the thing and the conversations that we had when we were full of excitement for all of these new players coming in. We talked about what the minimum requirements were. And it is to win a big trophy, to go to try to dominate. And we are far from that at the minute. Now, look, if you talk about from a points perspective in the league, we are top. That's fair enough to say that. Simon Jordan had a little pop back at Carragher, and Simon Jordan was defending Liverpool's start of the season and talking about the fact that we did have a lot of new players to gel in, and we've lost one game in the league and people are overreacting. But I don't know if Simon Jordan's had the chance to watch every game we've played so far this season, but we've won them. But not once have we looked like we're dominating teams or that we are anywhere close to clicking and getting to our best. We've shown tremendous resilience and courage to win them late, but we haven't done enough, in my opinion, to be calm about what's happening. Joseph, how are you, sir? Said, hey, Craig, I don't see these reactionary idiots who are saying sack Slot. I trust him to fix the situation. He's shown he isn't ignorantly stubborn. WFM. So there's been quite a few, to be fair, people questioning Slot already. Like, as I keep telling you guys, I love to read the Echo section. I love to read other platforms, other websites in the comment sections, just to kind of get a gauge of how everyone's feeling. And like you, Joseph, I've been pretty surprised to see some idiots calling for the manager's head. I mean, I think that's absolutely nonsensical. But, people to ask why we're not playing well or, are we seeing progress? That's one thing. But I'm with you, mate. I think it's silly to be even questioning the manager's future. Like, that just seems way, way, way wide of the mark for me. JG94 said, hope you and your family are well, Craig. Would a 4-1-3-2 help us with Grav a bit deeper for defensive stability and Isak and Ekitike as our strikers? So I'm really interested to see how we go about playing the two lads together up top. We touched on it a little bit in the podcast that we just recorded, which, by the way, quick plug, will be out tonight at 10:45. It's myself, Connor and Chris, and we get stuck into the game and we look ahead to Chelsea. So we talked about the two forwards, mate, and can they play together? And what stands out to me so far in my limited viewing of both of these gents, because we've not seen too much of Isak, they're very different in the way that they want to play the centre-forward position. Isak seems to be more on the shoulder, getting behind, maybe drift out to the left a little bit, but ultimately he wants to be in the action areas. If you look at Ugo Ekitike, his heat map's a bit different. He seems to be coming deep a lot of the time, and we've often spoke about this. If a striker drops deep, it's for one of two reasons. Either he's getting frustrated that he's not seeing enough of the ball, or he wants to try to link play up and create space in behind for runners or people to come into. So if the striker drops, the centre-back has a decision to make. What do I do? Do I come with the player or do I stay? So we're not seeing the benefit of those. And for the Gravenberch thing, I totally agree with you. We do need him sitting deeper, because I remember right back to, I want to say, was it the Newcastle game where he came out afterwards? It was one of them anyway. And he said the manager was giving him more free roam to get forward this year. Well, it's not working because we're losing something defensively. So I would rather back the creative forward players to do that job. Your Salahs, your Wirtz, your Isaks, your Ekitikes, your McAllisters, your Soboslais, to get the creative stuff done. And we do need to find some better balance, because the back two, and I talk about the centre-backs here, they're far too easy to get through. How many times now was one pass just opening up our whole defence? Look at the chance that was created in the first 3 or 4 minutes last night. So yeah, a bit more defensive solidity with Gravenberch sitting a bit deeper probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Stevie Boy, agree it's the system. Used on back in the midfield with Ryan and push Wirtz closer to the striker and let him play as a 10. I kind of brought this point up, or a similar point, Stevie Boy, on the podcast. Why are we shoehorning players into positions that isn't their best position? Especially after a summer where we've spent as much as we have to build a squad up. So, in theory, can I understand why Arne has put Dominic Szoboszlai at right back? Sort of, yes. We know that he's capable of drifting infield and playing some passes and getting forward, and he's got a good engine, but he's not a right back. He's not defensively minded in the same way. So what's really concerning to me is, why is the manager not using one of his two right backs in that position? And if the experiment last night was to see if Frimpong's going to be the guy on the right for when Salah's at the AFCON, well, I think we've got the answer to that, and it's no. So that's what's concerning me, and I don't see how anybody could argue against it being anything other than the system. There are going to be individual performances that we think are good and bad, but overall, mate, it is a systematic thing for me. I think you're right. I think it is the manager needs to fix this, because I think it's a problem of the manager's creation. And that's where I'm at with it. I don't like sitting here saying that. I don't want to be sitting here saying that. But I don't see how we can say anything else other than it's a system that either the players don't understand or they don't understand each other yet. So is it worth going back to the basics? Is it worth going back to the way we played last year with the personnel mainly that understand the system? Or are we just all overly critical, and are the manager and the coaches seeing stuff that we're not seeing about these improvements? Because honestly, I'm not seeing it. I really amn't. I'm open to being corrected, but I'm not seeing any evidence that this is getting better as each game goes by. Why would Elise come if Salah's here for 2 seasons? Well, the link is for Salah after Salah goes, mate. It's always been that way. Yeah, the plan has always been that Liverpool would move either next summer or the summer after for Elise. So the reason he's in the title tonight is because Bayern are talking about giving him a new deal to extend his time there. So yeah, and look, also, let's be frank about this as well. If, and I don't think this will happen, but if Salah didn't pick up on his form this year, and I believe he will, but if he didn't, then maybe you've got to, move along a little bit quicker and say, well, it ain't working there. We've had a whole year of it. Let's go get somebody to at least provide competition for that final year of his contract. Like I said, there's a lot of unknowns at the minute, but we'll work through it and figure it out as we go along. Timo said, so a question. More or less, most of the players had proper pre-season, that they're all out of form. I do not understand that. It's a really fair point, there have been times where players have come in very late in windows. And look, Isak gets a pass because he's building up fitness and he's had no preseason, with us or without us, none. So he gets a pass. I'm kind of giving McAllister a pass to some extent for the time being, because again, I think he's playing a little bit of catch up. But others, Wirtz had a pretty healthy preseason, so no reason to be talking about a lack of fitness or there. Same with Jeremy Frimpong, Mohamed Salah, Ekitike. Look, I think Ekitike's more or less looked decent since he's come to the club, so I don't really have too many complaints about him. But yeah, we should be at our fittest now. We should be at our best now. We should be primed and pressing teams into oblivion. But those energy levels or that enthusiasm or that aggression just doesn't seem to be there at the moment. And, we're just fans. We can't really impact any solutions. We're all at the behest of the manager and his decision making. JG94 said, hi Craig, what system do you think will help this team? Frustrated at the system at the minute. Hopefully he implements what he's trying and we click shortly. So it's hard to say what system I think will work, because I believed, maybe naively, that he was going to try for this Luis Enrique Paris Saint-Germain type system, because he bigged it up so much. And if you look at the shopping list and the players that he brought in, you would think that that's what he's trying to do. So I don't think we need to deviate too far from the system that we play. Have the wing backs much further forward up the pitch. Have Gravenberch, like the gentleman said a moment ago, sitting a little bit deeper and protecting the back four. And I just feel like we're in this halfway house where we're overly cautious, trying not to concede, but at the same time, that's taken away from our ability to win balls from the front, press from the front, and cause mayhem and mistakes. So I don't get it. I just really don't get it at the minute, because I'm not seeing what he's trying to do, but what he's capable of doing, we know. A way that we can play would be the way that we expected, with the full-backs really wide, really high up the pitch. I think the right-hand side is our biggest headache, and I think that that's to do with relationships. So many people have pointed out the understanding that Trent used to have with Mo, and that's more than fair. So we're basically trying to recreate those relationships again. And if our wing backs now are to hold their width and get further forward, then that's going to mean that Salah's probably going to have to move inside a little bit to play in the half spaces. One positive sign last night for me, and it's a small one, I'd seen a lot more overlapping runs from Milos Kerkez when Cody Gakpo was in possession. Now, he didn't really utilise Miloš, but at least it took defenders' distraction or attention away, which gave Cody a little bit more space. You know, being a fan and not knowing what's going on in the dressing room, you can only kind of guess at half of these things, but that's kind of where my head's at. DCP said, we trusted in Klopp, now we must trust in Slot. Look, respectfully, and I mean this respectfully, I hate cheesy catchphrases like that. Like, we must do this. We must do whatever we feel like. It's life, mate. If, you know, we trusted in Klopp, now we must trust in Slot. Like, I get it, but it's kind of a nothing phrase. It means nothing. You know, you have to trust in something that you see, something that makes you believe to trust it. With Jurgen, it took us a while to get there. And we spoke about progression, and we spoke about improving each year. With Arne, it's kind of a bit weird because we won the league in the first year, so the bar goes up to here. And then in the second year, after the addition of world-class talent at a very, very expensive price tag, we've somehow regressed. So there's a lot that doesn't make sense. And I don't think this isn't about people trusting the manager or not. It's about people just unsure with what we're seeing and what we're trying to do. You can't just have blind trust in anybody. We all, I could say, want Arne to do well. I think we can take that as a given. He's a Liverpool manager. As fans, we want him to do well. But we can't just have blind trust in anything. It's just not healthy, like I keep saying. So, for me, the manager has more than enough credit in the bank because he won the league. And I'm not somebody that buys this, he won it with Klopp's team stuff. Because Klopp didn't win it with Klopp's team the year before. But Arne found a way. And whether that was keeping players fresher, fitter, less injuries, whatever it was, he found a way and he did it. And I find it I've always found it a bit disrespectful to say, oh, he did it with Klopp's team. Well, he didn't. He did it with a system and some changes to a team that didn't win the league the year before and fell away at the end of the season with injuries and were nowhere near what we were at the start of it. So he found a way to elongate that good form throughout a bigger period of time and win the league. I also don't like the argument that we won it because everybody else was shit. Who cares? I mean, how many league titles can we go back over the years and say United won this with a pitiful amount of points because everybody else fell off? Doesn't matter. You beat what's in front of you, you play what's in front of you, and we won the league. So I'm just trying to play devil's advocate on some of the stuff that I'm seeing on social media because I'm only really interested in the here and now and what we're doing and what we've done in the past, you know. And I suppose there is that phrase, isn't it, about eating bread is soon forgotten. It's kind of true. We won the league last year, but we're at the here and now, and we're not seeing it now. Mark said, evening Craig, 2 fit right backs, why play Szoboszlai there? So, on the Frimpong one last night, I understand what he tried. Yeah, we all called for Salah to get benched, and he did. And he tried Frimpong, which, to be fair, if we go back and look at conversations that were had in the summer, we were talking about who's going to play there at the AFCON, and everybody was saying Frimpong, Frimpong, Frimpong. But we're not seeing a Frimpong playing in the same position or the same way as he did at Leverkusen. So the question that I would have, Mark, is, did he bring in a right back that he actually wants to use in the way he's best? Or were some of these signings opportunistic? Like, the reason I'm struggling to give you an answer is, I look at some of the signings. I look at Isak, and it doesn't seem like we know how to play the ball to Isak or get him in behind. I look at Wirtz, and we've seen him in 2 or 3 different positions, and I wonder, well, what's happening there? He was brought in to be a 10. He was promised the 10 role. Why aren't we playing in a way that gets the most out of him in the 10 role? Same with Isak. Why aren't we playing in a way that gets the most out of his attributes? So for a club and a recruitment team that we rightly laud and we rightly praise for the research, for the manager that they brought in, you know, they went and everybody was talking about Amorim and Leverkusen and potentially bringing back Xabi Alonso, but they uncovered data that showed that Slot was the guy, and he was. So I'm wondering, with those same guys and the same research, how we look so unsure of how to play players in the positions that we would have assumed we brought them in for with success. It looks as if there was no plan, which is again at odds with what we heard all summer. Every player said that they were given clear instructions of how they were going to be used by Arne when they were coming in. But it doesn't look like there's any idea of how to bring that all together now out there on the pitch. Theory is one thing, but we're not seeing performances out there, and that is a concern to me, because I don't think any of us are going to say we're not happy with the signings. You know, Isak, wow. Wirtz, amazing. Ekitike, like, these are all great signings that none of us really complained. But we just need to find a way to make it work, and that's why, you know, he earns the big bucks. Salvia Divinorium said, last night's match was like a reenactment of the Gallipoli campaign. The British Empire came at us with their modern ships, planes and trucks, and they still couldn't get through. So, okay, firstly, I'm Irish, so I really couldn't give a shite what the British Empire did or didn't do at any point in the future. Secondly, you won the game, and congratulations on that. I don't know where else to go. Like, I've got tremendous respect for Turkish football and Turkish people, like I've said many times, but if you think you're going to bait me with stuff about the British Empire, I couldn't give a fuck. I'm Irish, so what they did or didn't do does no interest to me. In fact, I don't even know the situation or the campaign that you're talking about. Didn't learn that in my history class, so I'll have to pass on that one. But congrats on the win, like I said. Just one thing. In the future, maybe just ask your players to stand up, because Osimhen was an embarrassment to football last night. An embarrassment. He was. Every time we had the ball, he suddenly had an injury. But that's not your fault. The referee needs to be stronger there. DCP said, understanding your point with trust, do you think we built a team for the future knowing there would be a struggle this season? I can't answer that question, but what I can say to you is how I feel as a fan. We won the league last year, and we've lost maybe one player that people feel we shouldn't have lost. So there's no real reason to me why we're starting as slowly as we are. So yes, we can build a team for the future, but there's a lot of double speak going on. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. We sold Luis Diaz, and whether you think that was right or wrong, he was sold, and we were told that Rio Engamoa was a first-team player and that Rio Engamoa was one of the 6 forwards. Same with Federico Chiesa, that they were the 6. Now, I'll ask you a question. Do you think in that game last night, if Cody Gakpo starts on the left and the manager goes to make a substitution on the left, do you think for 1 second he wouldn't have brought Luis Diaz on the pitch? Because he would have. Now, for people that are supposed to believe that Rio's the here and now ready player, why wasn't he given that chance on the left? The answer will be because he's young, because he's inexperienced, and because he has to blossom into the team over time, which is the right answer. That's the right thing to do. But that's not what we did in the market. We were told he was ready to be introduced this season as one of the 6. So it feels like we've almost hamstrung ourselves with 2 players out of 6 forwards that the manager, for whatever reason, doesn't feel are capable or suitable to play right now. And that winds me up, because somebody's either ready or they're not. For what it's worth, I think the right thing to do with Rio is to introduce him slowly. But you can't do that and then tell us that we've 6 forwards and he's one of them, but yet we're not seeing him used again. You know, it might be a small gripe, it might be something and nothing, but it's how I feel about it all. Sunil said, Wirtz, most chances created from a Premier League team so far. He'll come good eventually. Isak needs time. He's still in pre-season. We need to keep winning. But we aren't. That's the thing. We aren't winning. We've lost 2 in a row. Only the second time in a row we've done that. And we haven't got a gimme at the weekend either. It's going to be a difficult game. And on that stat that you're talking about, I actually have it here. 1 sec. So yeah, most chances created for Premier League clubs in all competitions this season. Fernandes for United has 17 chances created in 7 games. And Mbeumo 18 in 7 games. Grealish 21 in 8 games. And Wirtz 21 in 9 games. So, as you've said, he is creating chances. But I also said to you, you can find a stat to make everybody look great. So the stat that matters is goals and assists, 3 points on the board, winning games. And he hasn't hit the ground running. And that's okay. I'm genuinely calm about Florian Wirtz. I just think he needs to be taken out of the firing line for a little bit. And maybe Arne needs to go back to the three midfielders that he had last year for the here and now, and then let Wirtz come in over time. To all the gobshites trying to bait me in the chat, you're just embarrassing yourself. Who's crying? Do you see tears? Do you see crying? You're a fucking idiot. You know you're an idiot. I know you're an idiot. Stop wasting my time. My God. Telling me to grow up. Do you not see the irony of that, you little bitch? No? It's so weird. Like, you people are weird. You trolling little shits are just strange people who have definitely an inferiority complex. Craig, Macca is driving his price down so we can get a move to Madrid by playing Pearly. Or is Macca driving his price down? That is, honestly, I'm shocked at the fact that you would even think he would do that. You know, yeah, I'm truly, truly shocked that you would even accuse one of our players of that. Mac is going through a difficult time on the pitch. It's fair enough to say that. But to think that he's tanking on purpose to try to get a move to Madrid is beyond embarrassing. Like, I don't even know what to say. The answer is no, by the way. But other than that, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I don't know what to say. The man's a World Cup winner and one of my favourite players that we have, who always gives it 100% effort, but is struggling for whatever reason at the moment. Riot said, it's probably rival fans, Craig, trolling. Most fans think something wrong with the team. No, I'll tell you what it is. There's a problem with people. That's it. All that these idiots can do is go from channel to channel and platform to platform because they have nothing to contribute to the world. They can only be negative. They can only hate. They can only belittle. That's it. It is a horrendous existence, and I feel sympathy for them that they wake up every day and feel that way. It really, like, I hope whatever happens, these fuckers get joy in their lives because it's a really weird place to be. Andrew said, Craig, I love you, but I think we all need to get a grip on how many changes have been made to this team that will take time to get chosen. Patience is key. So, how do I answer that? Firstly, thank you for the compliment, Andrew. Secondly, it's not my job to be patient. It's not my job to praise stuff that isn't worth praising. It's my job to give you an honest assessment of what I see as a Liverpool fan, and you can react how you see fit. And to say to you that anything other than we look devoid of ideas, we've been getting away with it winning games, and now we've lost 2 on the bounce, there isn't really a lot of encouragement there to see, Andrew. So, like I said, if there was an identity or, let's just use a lazy example. If Arne suddenly wanted everybody to play out from the back and it was only playing out from the back and, you were seeing mistakes from something that was new that he was trying to get them to do that they weren't used to, you'd say, fair enough, they're getting used to it. But what are we trying to do? And also, on the new players thing, there's quite an easy fix for that. Go back to the old players then. If you don't think that the new guys that you brought in, coached and prepared are ready, well then put out a team that looks something like Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, Robertson, Allison, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Salah, Gakpo, and one of your centre forwards. And you've got one change in that team. Other than Bradley, who was already at the club. So I really find that it's just lazy to say, well, this is to be expected. No, it isn't. Improvements are to be expected. Teething problems, fair enough. But you want to see signs that things are changing, and we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is Arna coming out week after week talking about low blocks over and over. Well, hi Arna, you brought in Verts to be the unpicker of the low blocks. What's the story with that? So, yeah, I mean, sometimes I think, yes, can I be too critical at times? Of course. I know that I've got a tendency to have that in me. But I think sometimes people are also delusional on the other end in thinking it's to be expected. Is it? Or it's acceptable. Is it? Like, I don't think it is. And if they thought they were making too many changes, well, isn't that an indictment of the recruitment policy? Why wasn't it done over stages then? So, I think there's validity in that as well. Like, for the years I was calling for FSG to spend money, well, they've done it all in one summer, and I'm happy that they did. But if too much change is going to be an issue, then why wasn't it done gradually? Why do we sell Diaz? Like, I can give you an answer to every opposite end that you have to my critiquing, because I just don't see a plan. Do you? I don't know. I have asked so many times, just tell me why we're playing. Tell me what Arna's trying to do. Tell me why we're knocking the ball around the back. And the answer can't be because we're looking for the perfect pass, because the perfect pass is never going to appear when you've got 10 men behind the ball. It's not going to. Sorry, let me just grab back my comments, see where we're at. Right. And Liverpool move the ball upfield at a snail's pace and then struggle and complain about the low block. Make that make sense. Exactly. You beat low blocks by playing quickly or running at people. And what we didn't see last night, and I don't think we see this enough, is our wingers, whoever's there, whether it's Frimpong, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, Engamoa, whoever it is, run at people, please. Take them on. How did Galatasaray win the game last night? By winning a penalty. By running at people. So what do? We have players that check inside, look for a pass or a cross. Not enough time is spent running directly at defenders. Rio Engamoa could have terrified their fullback last night. We could have started running at them and got them booked earlier by making them draw a foul or a tackle. And playing a low block team, well, run into the penalty area with the ball. Hope for a ricochet. Maybe you get fouled. There's not enough game intelligence for me of the dark arts going on. Let's look at the situation that caused us to lose that game last night. We went from going down the other end of the pitch and Ekitike not getting a shot away and potentially not going to ground for what could have given the ref a decision to make, to us then conceding from Wirtz backheeling the ball for whatever reason, just rolled it backwards from the left side of the penalty area. Galatasaray pick it up, play their way out, and the right back that's not used to defending as a right back then gives away a penalty. Now, whether you think he should have given away the penalty or not, that's irrelevant, because it was a position that a natural right back would have known how to deal with more and maybe wouldn't have been as naive. So, again, I don't see it. That's the paradox. You need to play them to get the cohesion. One step back to go 2 steps forward. We need to play across the back. But Andrew, you're not answering the one thing I keep asking you, mate. What are we trying to do? So rather than give me all this happy clappy stuff, mate, what are we trying to do? There's no paradox, because I don't know what we're trying to do. It's not like we're trying to play through the lines and they're being intercepted. We're not doing anything. We're moving the ball side to side. And then we're going full United and just emptying the bench when we go behind, or we're desperate and hoping something happens. Where's the aggression from the start? Where's the pressing teams into mistakes? I'm not trying to be a dick, I promise you. But I just think what you're saying is delusional, because it's all based on hope rather than what we're actually seeing with our eyes. I promise you, if there was mistakes being made because of a systematic change that we could see what they were trying to do, I'd be a lot more calm. And I do think we'll get back to winning ways, and I do think we'll figure it out. But I can't say I've seen it yet. And I can't be excited about hypotheticals. So, next week, my opinion could be totally different. We could go out and blitz Chelsea on Saturday, and I could be sitting here with you guys on Saturday night saying, it's clicked. That was the 90 minutes we were looking for. But yeah, Andrew, my man, we haven't seen it yet, bro. And we haven't seen anything close to it yet. So I'll give you a mad paradox, right? You'll have the word yourself, so I'll throw one at you. Make this make sense. And I know football is weird. We beat Atletico Madrid at Anfield. Galatasaray were beaten 5-1 by Frankfurt on the opening game of the Champions League. And Atletico Madrid beat Frankfurt 5-1 last night. So the team that beat Galatasaray 5-1 got beaten 5-1 by the team that we beat, and yet we go over to Galatasaray and play like that. That does not make sense. And I know you can't naturally just compare these results, but it gives you an indication of the levels. And if Galatasaray weren't even on the level of Frankfurt, who were then battered by Atletico, it confuses me. Camel Deep, how are you, sir? Hey, Craig, do you think Dom is playing right back because we're missing Trent? The system is definitely at fault. Somehow it feels players forget how to play. 100%. And I can understand the thought process, Campbell Deep. Because if you were to go through our team and say, who could give you what Trent could give you from that position, Dom's probably the closest to it, right? He can drift infield, he can spray passes, he's got a good engine, so he's able to get up and down. But you are taking him away from his natural position, in which the player who is there, Wirtz at the minute, just isn't hitting the ground running yet. So to kind of patch up one area, you're taking away from another area. And also, we have two right backs. And I can't say that enough. Why do we sign Frimpong if we don't think Frimpong's going to be the guy at right back? Why was Bradley given a new long-term deal if he's not going to be good enough to play at right back? And I'm not saying he's not good enough, by the way. I really like Conor Bradley. But this is what we're seeing. Two right backs fit and in the squad, and none of them playing right back in a Champions League away from home. That is weird. Wayne said, what happened to us using the half space, just not seeing this season so far? Feels like with Gravenberg playing forward, it's making Wirtz drop deeper. And also, Ekitike is dropping into space. So Ekitike is dropping in. I mentioned last night during the watch-along, there was a few times where we got possession around the edge of the Galatasaray penalty area, and our players were too close to each other. They were almost getting into each other's way. And relationships are important, and I do think that Salah is certainly missing the understanding he had with Trent. But I think the only way you get that understanding is by getting the right back that is going to be our right back consistently playing. Because the chopping and changing isn't going to find Salah to find those same wavelengths or relationships. And what I'd like to see, trying to put it simply, is, like I've said, the two full-backs wide, holding the width, high up the pitch. And I want to see Salah using the half space. So he's not having to try to drift in from inside. Just let Salah work in the half space and have your Frimpong going around the outside. Because even if Salah doesn't utilise him, he's taking a defender with him. And he's creating a small bit more space. So that's what I'd like to see as a fan. Because of course you want to get Salah more involved in the game. You want to get Salah close to the danger zone where he does his best work, which is the penalty area. And you can say the same on the other side as well. You want to get your other winger, whether it be Gakpo, who we know was a goal in him and a shot. You want to get these guys involved. So yeah, simple, but that's what I'd like to see. And again, I'm not Arne Slot, I'm not qualified to undermine him, but I'm confused. David, as always, sir, appreciate you. You put in the same one twice. I don't know if it was an accident or it was a YouTube thing, Dave, but always lovely to see you, my friend, and thank you for your kind words to the community as well. Marcus said, we all had big expectations before the season started. We can't this early come with excuses. We still have the core of the team. This team. Exactly, mate. There's a lot of rewriting and reinventing what we all said in the summer. Because you're right. We all had big expectations. So did the club. Because if you look at the language that was being used, it's the team is being put together to be able to challenge, compete across all competitions. and not see a drop off in level. So yes, some knitting together needs to happen, but the drop off from last year in performance levels, let's take the win column out of it for just a second and look at the performances every game this season. I can't remember a full 45 where we played well. I can remember 25-30s. Atletico played quite well the first 25-30 there, but I'm not seeing anything even close to our best last year. And I don't know if this comes back to the fact that we had things wrapped up so early and we were knocked out of the Champions League so early that we almost went into autopilot for the final 20% of the Premier League last season. And I've always said it's difficult to just switch these things on and off and suddenly get back to that aggression. It has to be an identity, it has to be a core philosophy, and it has to be relentless. All the time, go, go, go. No dropping in standards, no switching on and off, no half-arsing it. You're 100% all the time. And with a squad that was built like ours, to have depth, that's when you start to rotate and use the players. So many confusing things, And look, the worst part about all of this, and the part that hurts me the most is, I hate us fans arguing with each other over it, or even heated debates with each other over it. Because we don't want to be doing it. I don't want to be doing it. You don't want to be doing it. But I can only be honest. And I can't sit here in good conscience and say what I'm seeing is great. I can tell you that I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. But I need to see improvements. And I need to see an understanding of what we're trying to do. So lots of people have made good points about Paris Saint-Germain. And they didn't just go and play great from day one. They peaked at the right time. They won the Champions League. And there's every chance we could do that. But we don't have the wiggle room that they would have in the French League to drop as many points if you're finding things out still. We went from a position where last week it could have been 8 points clear of Arsenal if they had have not had their late comeback against Newcastle and we hadn't have lost to Palace. There could have been 8 points. Now, I know that's a hypothetical, but it shows you the swings that can happen quite quickly. And this weekend, we play Chelsea, and then we know if we don't win and Arsenal win, we have to sit here for the next 2.5 weeks seeing Arsenal top of the Premier League, knowing that we were 5 points clear 2 games ago. None of that paints a great picture, and none of that fills you with optimism, because then you're playing catch-up, and Arsenal are only going to get more confident and grow in stature. So we need to take every opportunity we can. Look at Newcastle today. They go away with new players, and they won 4-0 in the Champions League away from home. And Voltmade scored again. Very fortunate for him to have gotten the goal, because it was Tonali's shot, but he did. And then Gordon got 2 penalties. And how do they get these penalties? By running at people, which is again what I come back to with us. We're not even giving ourselves the opportunities for that to happen. Send Rio into that 18-yard box running at defenders and watch them shit themselves, because they can't really go and challenge them, because they know if they don't get it right, it's a penalty. So why aren't we giving ourselves that option? Why are we taking throw-ins near their corner flag and going back to the halfway line? Arna keeps talking about set pieces as well, being games within games. Well, we've lost every one of them games. Every single one. We conceded a goal against Palace late from a long throw-in, but 5 minutes earlier we had the same opportunity and threw it back to the fucking halfway line. These are things that just drive me demented, because they're... Why not? Why not lump one in and put Konate and Van Dijk up? Why not try to cause a moment of mayhem, particularly when you're playing a team sitting with a low block? Because that's probably the best chance you're going to have, bar a worldie from the edge of the box. Suleiman. Good point, Craig. One explanation could be that we got worse. Atleti and Galatasaray got better. Of course. Absolutely. Look, that was huge for them last night. You can see the celebrations. You can see how much it meant to their fans. It was huge. And you want to try to win your games at home in the Champions League. Absolutely. But I just want us to play better. I keep going back to the same thing. I just want us to play better. And like I said many times, it was great having the conversations with you about what we can do better when we were winning. You know, it's always lovely to pick the bones out of a win and talk about what we could have done better. But we were still talking about the fact that we all felt we were getting away with it. But now we're not getting away with it. So then it becomes a bigger talking point and a bigger problem and more pressure. And it's only going to come from the outside now as well. Bobby said, do you think Trent leaving us hit us that hard? Look, I'm sure it's a culmination of a few things. So Trent leaving, you know, is a loss to the club in a few ways. Diogo's tragic passing, of course, has to be under consideration here as well. Something that Luis Diaz said still sticks in my mind about, it felt like he was taking a cheap shot at Liverpool when he talked about settling into that Bayern dressing room and how people are playing for the team and not looking for selfish stats or goals. It felt like that was a bit of a dig at us. So is there something that we don't know? Because the cohesion doesn't look great out there. And if I see Virgil or Konate do this one more time, trying to move people into position so they can then start to play out from the back, I'm going to lose my mind. Because, again, all it's doing is giving them a chance to reset. It feels like Arna wants Virgil playing chess out there and moving pieces around. But those pieces don't seem to be knowing what to do. David said, I don't understand our style of play. I don't think you're the only one. I don't know anybody who does know what we're trying to do. I don't. I've no idea. Riot said, how can a team click if you keep switching starting 11 and playing these guys in the wrong positions too? There's certainly a fair point to that one, mate. So look, I am understanding that players take time to settle in. Like I get that. I mean, I've been the one defending Verts on that for quite a while now. But what was most concerning about last night from a team perspective was when Isak came on the pitch, we didn't know what to do. 4 touches. You're chasing a game, you bring on a £125 million striker, and he had 4 touches. And that's not his fault. Because he didn't get the ball. So, the fuck are we doing? Like, do we not know how to play into a centre forward? Have we not worked on what to do when Isak comes on the pitch? And again, you can talk about a low block or whatever you want, but still need to find a way to get the ball to your centre forward. And we weren't doing that. He was completely... It was like we were carrying a passenger out there, but it wasn't his fault. Because nobody was giving them anything to work off. That is also very, very worrying. Naturalist said, is Slot trying to control the players too much? Do you think he's giving very specific instructions where he wants them and how they should move? Of course, yeah, it definitely feels that way. But I keep coming back to the same halfway house answer. I feel like we're in between 2 ways of playing. And we're not fully committed to either. So pick one and go at it 100%. And if mistakes come, mistakes come. But do it. Keep doing it. If you want to draw the press on, then find a way to draw the press. But I've watched other teams progress through the lines, and they've done a lot smoother than we seem to be able to, with players who are really good technicians, like Wirtz, like McAllister, like Szoboszlai. You know, we seem to struggle. Even our counter-attacks are breaking down a lot more than they used to. There's just a lot of stuff that feels like it's a half yard too slow at the minute. And our passing is... Don't let these stats fool you. Our passing is horrendous. Whether it's 5 yards behind the player, whether it's too slow, whether it's intercepted, it's just not right. And there's just no conviction to it. Zishan said, Slot hasn't got a clue. This was evident last season around March. We don't win the league last season as we carried on with. Well, like I said, mate, it's difficult to switch on and off aggression, form, intensity like that. It's why I hate people saying, like, I moaned last year, mate, at the end of the season about us not winning games or performing bad, and people were like, the league's won. What do you want? The league's won. Well, here you go. Here we are this season now, and we're struggling to be able to flick that switch. My point proven, I think. You know, I get it in theory. People are like, oh, the league's won. Sure, it just doesn't matter. It does matter. Of course it fucking matters. Every damn game matters. Every point matters. Every performance matters. Because you know what doesn't change? The people that pay the money to go and watch. That doesn't change. The people that spend their hard-earned money to travel over to Istanbul for that game last night, do you think they care if there's an excuse? No. They know what they seen wasn't good enough. They know to expect better, and they deserve better. That performance last night was absolutely shocking. And it comes off the back of another shocking performance against Palace. And again, I'm going to say, don't forget, a lot of these guys had a rest. They weren't using the League Cup. So that Palace performance came after Arne giving the boys time off during the week. And how do they repay that? By putting in a stinker that looked like they haven't got any energy. LFC Mania said the amount of times that we lost the ball through the first touch is unreal. Yep. And I mentioned it again last night that we seem to have to take an extra touch. So we get the ball on the edge of their area or in the penalty area, and we take a touch, and then we go to shoot, and it's blocked. Well, let's look at Rio's goal against Newcastle. He didn't take a touch, he hit it, and he scored. Now, he may have time to take a touch, but he didn't. And too many of our players are almost being too cautious and overthinking it. Wirtz is certainly one of them. And there was another few occasions last night. Even Gravenberch, there was one time he was dispossessed and he let the ball roll across him and turned infield into the middle where there was infinite space to his other side. If he drops his left shoulder, he's gone into space. So many things that we've seen these guys do differently that just isn't happening at the minute. Remember when Slot was glazing Pep? He's trying to pep our players, all that pointless passing, no taking on people, fast counter. See, the thing about that though, right, is that works for Pep's teams. You never hear Pep's team moan about a low block, do you? Because they'll pass their way through it. De Bruyne would unpick the lock. They'd find a way back in the day, and they'd be blitzing these teams. You never really see them struggling in the same way. If I have to listen to Arne Slot moaning about a low block one more time, I think I'm going to cry. Because he got given the tools to blow open the shed doors, to get rid of that low block. Find a way to do it. Stop moaning about it. You were given the way to find answers. You were given the backing. Now start finding the answers. Like, I know sometimes as fans, when we have these conversations, we all have different worldviews and we all have different expectations and we all have different levels of importance that we put to football or to things like that. I can't help it that I am a win-at-all-costs person. That's how I'm built. And I expect that from the team I'm watching. There is no room for mediocrity. There is no room for excuses. Be better. This is Liverpool Football Club. This is an institution that is here to win. So, win. Not make excuses. No feeling sorry for yourself. No moaning about the pitches. Fucking win. As Klopp said before, in one of our poor performances, his old midfield would have torn that team to shreds, or his old midfield would have found a way to win that game. And that would have applied last night. You know, and Virgil, what he said after the match also baffles me. And I'll read it out to you again, just in case you don't know what I'm referring to. So Virgil said, the first part of this I agree with. It's absolutely normal to need time when you come to a new team. No problem with that. That's fair. Nowadays, you don't get time from the outside world. I'm very confident. I'm not worried if things won't click. I don't know how we can say that. The first part, like I said, no problem. But you do want to see improvements. And I don't know anyone that's seeing the improvements. So 8 games in, after a pre-season, should we not be seeing something that shows it's developing? So I don't know what our captain was going at there last night. I really don't get it. You know, noise from the outside. Well, hopefully some of that noise from the outside does seep into the inside so they understand that shit needs to get better. Because it's all very well and good taking the praise when you're winning league titles and everyone's blowing smoke up your arse and it's all lovey-dovey. But the real characters are found when the rest of the team is wanting. Who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck? Who's going to be the Steven Gerrard? Who's going to be the Mohamed Salah? All the international caliber players and all the experience that we have. Where were they last night? Where were they against Palace? I don't see it. And it's frustrating to say that. I think Chelsea will be the decider. We have to have a strong performance unless there's going to be a lot of tension, said Billy Beckner. That game now is huge. It's huge because 3 losses in a row, you're maybe not top of the league. It's the first time it's happened under Arna. And you know damn well that every outlet that keeps reminding us of the money we spent is going to keep going out with the knives are going to be sharpened and they're going to go for their throat with Liverpool. And they're going to look for everything. And they're going to find ways to undermine us and to try to... Once the narrative and the momentum starts against the manager, it's really hard to wrestle it back. So we need to put it right quickly. I guess it comes down to one thing. Do you think Arna can put it right or not? And I'm going to go back to what I've said all the way through with Arna. I have faith in him. I do. Same way I said and defended him when he came in, that he wasn't going to be a scapegoat, that he wasn't going to be a sacrificial lamb after Klopp. Many people said he was, including former Liverpool players. I didn't. I knew that he had something about him. But he needs to start showing it now. Whether that's a ruthless streak, whether that's going back to basics, whether that's a tweak or a change to the system. He needs to earn his big bucks now because it's his team. He brought in a lot of world-class talent. Now it's time to shine and it's time to kick on. And it has to start soon. Joseph said, maybe a 3-5-2 could be an option. Centre-back issue, though. It's absolutely not an option. Not even a little bit, mate. We have 3 centre-backs. And, that's it. That's what we have now. 3. So a 3-5-2 means nobody's ever getting rotated. Nobody's ever getting rested. And then you have 2 potential shaky performances. Because we don't know how Gomez is form-wise. We only have a small sample size from what we've seen in the League Cup. And it wasn't great. And Konate, it used to be 50-50 with how many good games he had versus bad this season. Now it's back into the negative column. So I feel like adding in 2 shaky defenders, it's just not. It's just not. You need 6 centre-backs at your club to play with a back 3. And we have 3. 3. Now look, we're unlucky with Giovanni Leone, granted. You know, if he was there, would have been another option. But we don't have him for the rest of the season, so we've got 3. GCF 102 said, seems like a very obvious draw on Saturday. I don't know if people agree with me on this or not, but for me, a draw isn't good enough on Saturday. It isn't. A draw doesn't answer anything. And a draw, again, probably still leaves us in second place in the league because Arsenal have a better goal difference. So, for me, a draw is no good. I want to win on Saturday. Nothing less. A win. And I will say, I don't give a shit about the performance if we win. Because right now, it's a time to get the points and then we can reset. And we can figure it out. And there is a natural break for 2 weeks where the manager can at least get his thinking cap on with his coaches. But come hell or high water, we need to find a way to leave Stamford Bridge with those 3 points. David said, don't want Slot to become like Arteta, making excuses and very annoyed with Virgil after what he said. Excuses are just that. But look, in the same way, David, I've said to you guys many times, I think as fans, and I'm guilty of this as well, we believe too much in what the manager says. What the manager says to the media and what the manager says in the dressing room, I'm sure are very different. The manager has to come out to face the world to defend his players, defend his system, and do what's best for the club. So manager double speak, I accept. But we don't have to believe it. And we wouldn't. Like, as many people did, if Arteta was coming out with this shit, we'd be laughing at him. So what he says publicly, I don't believe even Arna believes, because there's no way I think he thinks we played well yesterday or are playing well this season. Isa Judah said, Craig, if we lose Saturday, I'm worried. Are you worried? Of course. How could you not be with 3 losses on the bounce? Regardless of anything else, like at any point, under any manager, in any era, at any time, losing 3 on the bounce for Liverpool is unacceptable. So, yeah, I'm worried if we don't. Like, of course we're going to get better. Of course we are. But getting better halfway through the year when maybe the title race is gone for us, that's going to be little consolation to us. Because I keep coming back to it. What were our expectations at the start of the season? Every single one of us, to a man, woman and child. Now, there were people who said that they expected it to take a while to gel. I don't want to make out like those people didn't exist. There were people who wondered, had there been too much change? So I want to give those people an acknowledgement. But we all said that we want to win. Premier League, Champions League, that's what these purchases, that's what these players are brought in for. That was the aim. So I don't want to be 6, 7, 8 points back come the time Mo comes back from the AFCON. That's too late. So we need to find ways. Nothing wrong with building to something if you're picking up the points like we were getting away with. But now we're not getting away with it. And we just look predictable. Kilo said, the key, Craig, scoring first. When Liverpool concede first, they lose. Well, then let's look at last night again as an example. What would you expect a manager to say to a team going away from home in Europe to a very hostile, and I mean that in a complimentary term to the Galatasaray fans, a very hostile environment? What are you going to say? You're going to say, quieten the fans, right? That's what you're going to say. Go out there and shut them lot up. So how do you do that? Well, you make no errors and give them no encouragement for a start. So you keep it simple, you keep it tight for the first 10 or 15 minutes and you grow into the game. What you don't do is start handing them one-on-one opportunities with your goalkeeper or giving away stupid fouls and free kicks. You don't energise the fans. But that's exactly what we did last night. And this isn't a team full of kids that haven't experienced these type of atmospheres before. This was a team full of established international players. And we went over there and just basically handed the initiative to them by giving away a golden opportunity at the start and then turning what should have been a goal-scoring opportunity for us into a penalty at the other end. These are not things that should be happening, especially away from home in Europe. Martin said, no energy, no hunger, no aggression, too slow. Yes, 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 yes. Martin. 4 ticks from me. The legend said, another win and a clean sheet. I'll take it. So I had seen you were 1-0 up against against Olympiacos, mate, a half time, but I'm gathering you've seen the game out and won it, so fair play. What's that thing you're talking about there after another W? What's this clean sheet thing that you're discussing? It's not something I'm familiar with. Yeah, must be nice that. A clean sheet. Clean sheet gives you a chance, doesn't it? But no, I jest, obviously. For us, we're just too open defensively, mate. We're just giving up too many chances too easily. Craig, I was watching Arsenal today, and the football they play to us is mental. No silly mistakes. Even Palace looked assured and looked like they understood what they wanted to do. Yeah, Newcastle. I watched Newcastle tonight, and I watched the second half of their game against Union Saint-Gilloise, and they understood the system. They understood how they were playing. Again, I'm baffled as the second year of a manager's job, and somehow we're gone backwards. Itachi said, based on latest games, what will be your strongest 11 we have currently, Hugo and Ali included? Allison, Bradley. I fucking don't know how to answer Konate or Gomez. I'm going to have to say Konate. Virgil, Robertson, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Salah. I'd say Salah, Ekitike, Isak. So Ekitike off left, Isak central. I've nothing to back up, including Isak, other than his previous history in the Premier League with goal scoring. That's what I would see in my head would be the strongest 11. The reason I didn't put Wirtz in there is probably pretty clear, because I think he needs time to adapt. And I am always willing to give players that are coming into a new league time to adapt. And I think a good juxtaposition is look at Ekitike and then look at Wirtz. They both came in from the same league. So, one's hit the ground running and the other hasn't. And I say that not to knock one or the other, but to say no two things are ever the same. No two players settles into a new environment the same. And I wonder, are the price tags going to be a weight on their shoulders? Ekitike feels like a man that wants to prove a point, and I love that. Isak, look, I've no doubts about Isak. Isak's going to be brilliant. Yeah, and I also want to see more of Chiesa, because my thoughts on whether he was injured or not. We'll see if he's available for Stamford Bridge on Saturday. But he needs to start being actually given the game time that his performances have acknowledged and deserved. And you could make an argument that I probably could have even included him in that strongest 11, but I don't have a big enough sample size yet either. The fact that I'm here struggling to give you a strongest 11 is tough, based off this squad that we have. Should be a fairly easy one. Do I miss Trent? No. I don't. The team probably does. I don't, because he didn't want to be here. I'm very black and white on these issues. If you don't want to be here, off you pop. I want players that want to be here. So no, I don't miss him, but the team and the style maybe does. I don't even know what slot ball is at this point, said Abdullah Naveed. I don't think you're on your own, Abdullah. I don't think, bro, that any of us could really explain in 3 or 4 sentences what slot ball is now, like what we're doing. I'm not sure either, mate. David said, we're all frustrated. Let's keep the faith. Sorry, I just have this tickly cough. Of course, yeah, we're all frustrated, definitely. And nobody's saying the season's over, get rid of everyone, sack the manager. No, of course not. Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just disappointed with what we've seen performance-wise so far. But I'd be even more disappointed if we hadn't found a way to win the first 6. And we hadn't, had a good start in the league, results-wise. But, I can't be happy with poor performances either. And like I said, I'm an emotional person. So I don't really have a middle ground in life with a lot of emotions. I'm either fully woohoo, Ric Flair, yay, or I'm overthinking, stressed and frustrated. Itachi said Salah, Ekitike, Isak would be worth a try. Currently, we're looking like individuals with no system, and that's worrying after that summer window when we look weaker than last season. Well, if there's one thing that I definitely did learn from last night, it's that I don't want to see Frimpong playing in that position when Salah's at the AFCON. That's, if there's one thing I took from last night that I'm adamant about, it's that. Not only because he didn't have the greatest of games, he just didn't look comfortable in that position. It looked like he was almost a little bit too far forward for his liking. So yeah, that I don't think that can be the answer. The only answer has to be Chiesa. Has to be the answer. So when Salah goes to the AFCON, and I would say you probably agree with me. Let me ask it. Let me ask a poll. One sec. Right, so who plays right wing when Salah is away? Is it Frimpong, is it Chiesa, or is it someone else? So have a little vote on that if you can, and we'll see where people's heads are at. So we are now Wednesday. I want to just remind everybody that we are giving this shirt away on Saturday. So if you haven't entered the competition yet, still time to do so. Thank you to our friends at the Collector's Corner who have given us this prize to give away. The signed and framed Diogo Jota shirt. We'll be announcing the winner after the Chelsea game on Saturday. To enter, get yourself over to the Anfield Agenda Instagram account and you will see all the instructions there on how to enter. It's open to everybody and best of luck if you've already entered. Where are we at? This one. The legend said, what excited me the most about the game was Odegaard. It was like the Odegaard of old. Clean passes, through balls. Definitely man of the match and what I want more of. So, as an Arsenal fan, the legend, how do you look at Liverpool and what we're doing now? Like, as I said earlier on, there is a chance you're top of the league come the end of the weekend and going into the international break. Worst case scenario for you, I presume you're going to win your game. So worst case scenario is you're probably going to be 2 points behind us if we beat Chelsea. But as an Arsenal fan, has Liverpool's start of the season given you more or less encouragement that Arsenal can win the league this year? Kelsey said we're missing the work rate from Nunes and Diaz. Both used to drop deep and help with our defending. I think the best front three right now would be Chiesa, Ekitike and Isak. However, that would work. So there is a very valid point that you've made about Darwin, I think in particular there, is that for all his misgivings in front of goal, and there were a lot, and we were right to sell him, he did give you a focal point or chaos or aggression, or he was never found wanting for effort out on the pitch, and that occasionally did create chances for others as well. So understand that, and we don't seem to have somebody at the minute who can do that, although I do think Ekitike has some signs of that tenacity that I think over time he can start to pop up in different positions and worry defences a bit more and drag them out of shape. Any updates on Ali and Hugo, said Roger Rabbit. So Hugo himself felt like it was just cramp. So hopefully that's okay. So it looks like that's just cramp. Alisson, I don't know anything on just yet. Other than Arna saying he'd be, 99% sure he won't be playing on Saturday. So it looks like it'll be Georgie Mamardashvili in goal. But fingers crossed it is just cramp for Hugo Ekitike, because I expect Isak to start the game against Chelsea. But, if Ekitike can give us 30 at the end, that would be very helpful as well. Slot has become Southgate, picking his favourites and not considering form. So let's talk about the favourites tag, because it's one that's come up quite a bit in our conversations. He dropped Salah, or rotated or rested, whatever word is most comfortable for you. He did that, right? We wanted him to do that. He did it. That took balls. It did. It's not an easy decision to take out your talisman. So that's, you got to give the manager credit for that. It didn't work, but he had the nuts to do it, right? Because a lot of us were thinking, or people were saying, is it in Salah's contract that he has to play and he can't be substituted and all sorts of stuff? Well, Arna benched them. So he did that. The Konate one, I'd like to see him next get a little go on the bench. Gakpo started though. Well, the reason Gakpo started is because in my opinion, mate, despite Arna telling us that N'Goma is a here and now first team player who's ready to be used at any chance, I don't think he really thinks that. And I think the common sense thing is he probably feels like he needs more time to introduce him gradually, which is common sense. But that's not what we were told in the summer when we're trying to look at our collection or group of forwards. So I don't know who else he can play on the left. If it was anywhere other than away at Galatasaray, I could probably say, yeah, I think maybe he should have given Rio a start. But I can understand going for some experience away there in that position, because, you want as few mistakes as possible and you want to, I guess, go to trusted lieutenants. But if those lieutenants aren't firing on all cylinders, But can I just say one thing? I feel at times there's been a lot of wanting to scapegoat one person this season. So I'm still reading people saying Jones was the problem against Galatasaray. I mean, I don't know what fucking game they were watching, but Jones to me was one of the players putting in the most effort and never hiding. He still takes too much out of the ball, but he wasn't hiding. He was always there, always looking for the ball, always trying to push on. So people need to stop trying to say it's Salah or it's Konate or it's Gakpo, or it's all of it. It's no one thing. There is no silver bullet that's going to fix everything like that. It's all of it. Everything needs to change. Arna needs to adapt, and we need to find a way to restore that confidence in our players. And it just bugs me that there's always seems to be this want for a scapegoat. One person. It's Wirtz, it's Gakpo, there's a whole lot of failures right now. And it's a collective thing. David said, Chiesa right wing all day long when Mo is away. It has to be, surely. I'm with you, mate. It has to be. Corbin said, think we need to spend again next summer, like 200 million. Where would you spend the money? Just out of curiosity, where would you spend the 200 million? Defensive midfielder, I think we can say, I'll give you that one, because that's probably where we need a backup. So most people probably say it that one. Where else, though, do you spend the money? Because if we're talking about a left winger, well, then we have to either decide that Gakpo wasn't worth the new contract we gave him and sell him, or write off that Rio N'Goma is ready and either loan him out or do something else there. So we've got to keep that in mind at one point. Through the centre, we've got two centre forwards. I don't think we're going to need to spend money there. And Jayden Danns, who unfortunately has still got an injury. Centre back, absolutely. Absolutely. But we think we know what that's going to be. And it looks like it'll be Mark Gay. The real confusing thing for me, right? So we heard from the Keep last night that... Actually, I'll read out what they said so I don't misquote. So, Keane, the reason I haven't read out what you've sent to me, mate, is because it is the most stupid thing I've ever seen written by any news outlet. Like, Alisson's out until after the international break. So he's out for one game. So, no, I didn't read it out because I couldn't believe when I read it earlier on. Of course he's out till after the international break. We know he's out for Saturday. Therefore, he's out till after the international break. So that one from Sky was a bit weird. Yeah, that one confused me a little bit. So where was this? So this, from L'Equipe last night, said, Liverpool's first proposed... No, actually, there's two posts. Let me give you the first one. Liverpool are confident of agreeing a new deal with Ibrahima Konate, who was offered a new renewal 2 weeks ago. They go on to say Liverpool's first proposal was made in December last year, but was well below the level expected for Konate. Talks resumed in spring this year. Since then, Liverpool revised their offer on several occasions. The fresh offer was sent 2 weeks ago. Negotiations are still ongoing. Several points yet to be clarified. Club executives are confident of striking an agreement. So the reason I bring this up is Kanate's hand, in my opinion, has only weakened in these negotiations with the way he started the season. If he had have agreed his deal in November, December, he probably would have had a better chance of getting closer to what he wanted. Because right now, if I'm Liverpool, am I bending or bowing down to these wage demands? No. Because his form has been, well, shaky. Look at last year. We had players, Mohamed Salah, Trent and Virgil, who were all in the last year of their deal. Now, one of them knew what he wanted and was off anyway. But the other two basically made it impossible for Liverpool not to reward them because they put in incredible seasons. Mohamed Salah was putting up numbers, unbelievable numbers, phenomenal numbers, that had even the fans on the Kop making banners to say, he plays with a bow, FSG, give him his dough. So impossible for the club to find a reason to say no. Konate, on the other hand, has started the season very wobbly. So if I'm Liverpool, and how do I phrase this in a way that doesn't sound really ruthless? I wonder if people wonder how big of a loss Konate would actually be if we were to lose him. Because if Mark Gay came in, I'd want Mark Gay playing over him alongside Virgil. I do like Konate and I do hope he stays. But I do think longer term, he's probably not going to be starting every single week if Mark Gay comes in. Because I think Gay's consistency will get him there. And it's not just us fans, by the way, that have concerns about Konate. I was watching Sky Sports last night. They were talking about Konate. Their journalists were talking about Konate looking shaky. So if he thinks that he could go to Madrid and play like that, can you imagine what he'd be getting from the media and the fans in Madrid if he was playing like he's playing for us? And somehow, we're wrong for calling out these poor performances and he's jumping on social media to defend himself. How about just play well? Just shut up. Just go out there, work hard, train and play better. Because at this moment in time, I couldn't give a shite whether he stays or not as a Liverpool fan. I'm worried at the fact that we don't have any options because of Giovanni Leone's injury. And I'm worried that we don't have maybe as much ability to rotate him out as we perhaps should have. But at the end of the season, when all is said and done, if he leaves, I won't lose a minute's sleep over it. And again, if he stays, happy days. I'm more than happy for him to stay. I'm not trying to run him out of the club. But, if he's wanting recognition, pay-wise, and acknowledgement of his place and stature, well, he's not improving that with the way he's playing. He's not showing himself to be a Van Dijk level player or a future leader. He's still very shaky. Salah is visibly rocked by the loss of Jota. Of course. And I will never, ever, ever push back against anything around that. And I promise you, for all the things I say and all the criticisms I have every sympathy and understanding for the impact that will have had. But there's also a case to say that if the manager knows that if one particular player or two particular players perhaps are struggling a bit more, because like I've always said, nobody grieves the same. You know, some people can compartmentalize stuff better, think about it in their downtimes, you know, play football the other time. Some people, maybe it consumes them. So there's no right or wrong answer there. And it's a huge loss. But it's the manager's job then to take them out and go, okay, look, I can see you're struggling at the minute. That's okay. You know, we're here for you. We need you. We love you. Have a breather. You know, maybe work through some more stuff with a counsellor or something if needs be. Yeah, that's absolutely acceptable, man. No problem with that. But it's up to the manager then to find who these players are that are struggling a bit with that more than others, perhaps, and take them out of the firing line or the limelight, and you know, treat them with the dignity and compassion that, of course, they deserve. Where are we at? This one, Stephen said, I've been saying all summer that the jury is still out for me with Arna. Performances have been worrying since February, and now I'm more sceptical. I don't think you're on your own, Stephen. I've seen quite a few people, even we won the league, saying that it was great, they were happy, but they still had some questions. I was very impressed with what I'd seen a lot of the time from Arna last year, particularly with the way he was able to make these changes in game that tended to go well for us then in second halves. So far this season, I'm not seeing as much of that. I'm not at a point where I've lost faith in him, but he's in a testing time, I think, at the minute, and he needs to prove that he can navigate through this. Corbyn said 2 centre-back, 1 attacker, 1 CDM and a right-back. There's no way on earth we can go out and buy another right-back unless we sell one of them. And if we sell one of them, we look like absolute fools. Because we gave Bradley a new deal at the end of last year. That the headline around was that Liverpool have faith in Bradley and that they believe he's going to be the guy moving forward. And then we brought in Frimpong as well. So we look really foolish if we bring in another right back, because it's like admitting we shit the bed with one of the decisions we made in the right back area. CDM, I agree with you on. Still wonder longer term if Bajcetic has any hope of being that guy. But it's hard to know because, like I said, we haven't seen him. Now, he is at the AXA training. I'd seen a few images of him the other day, so somebody had asked about that. And the 2 centre-backs thing, I've got no qualms with, mate, whatsoever on that. I 100% agree with you on the centre-backs. Even, well, if Konate signs a new deal, maybe 1. And that could be Mark Gay. Because if you've got Mark Gay, Virgil, Giovanni Leone, and Konate, I think we're good. And then you could maybe sell Gomez and bring in another one. So perhaps on that one. Damon J, how are we, sir? Said, Craig, we haven't looked as good at the back since we lost Fabinho. We can't keep clean sheets like we used to. Weirdly, though, Damon, although I'm not disagreeing with you, we know that Arna has given Grav more license to get forward now, which you think would be the opposite, right? Now that we're conceding and regularly conceding, and if not conceding, giving up a lot of chances, you'd think that the simple thing there to do would be to rein him back in a bit and not tell him to get forward as much, to sit deeper and be that third centre-back when the full-backs have moved forward, and to not have that license, to make sure that you're there to stop the counter-attacks. So he needs to find that balance. And if we went the other route And if we did bring in let's say, a Rodri type player or a Fabinho type player, then what do we do with the rest of the midfield? Because then you'd have somebody, let's say, playing as a natural six. So then you've got Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Jones, all ahead for two positions. There's probably too many there. So I'm probably still involved with selling a midfielder. Where was I at? Joey said, I said this a while ago, and again, we've got no bite. I love that comment, Joey, because I'm not seeing enough tenacity, enough snidiness, enough of the dark arts. I think we're too naive as a team, mate. And Arna loves to brag that his team don't roll around and his team don't feign injury and his team don't do this. That's okay, but sometimes you need to. Galatasaray won the game with a snide penalty. Ekitike had a similar situation up the other end, and we ended up conceding a penalty 10 seconds later. He could have gone to ground. There are times where we could use the dark arts, but we don't. And it's great bragging about it if you're winning. But if you're losing and you're still bragging about being this team that wants to play football in the right way, well, that's great, but sometimes you got to play the occasion. David said, a centre-back, a DM, a right wing for cover for Mo. 100% agree with every one of them. Yeah, like I can't really push back David against any of those positions you've mentioned, unless we really know longer term Chiesa is going to be the cover for Mo. And then when Mo moves on, you go get your Elise or whomever it may be. West Side Story said Gay would have helped with build-up. That signing was so important. Not sure if we really replaced Trent's strengths. I still think we'll be okay. I believe we'll be okay as well. You know, but we're all working off a bit of hope and optimism at the minute rather than facts that we're seeing in front of us. But ultimately, comes down to this for me. There's too much talent in that team. There's too many good players there for it not to eventually work, or for the manager not to find a way for it to work. There's just too much talent. M said, do you think the season is over if Virgil is injured? Well, without a doubt. 100% yes. I don't see... Like, even if you go into the market in Jan to bring somebody in, it's still a big, big call to try to bring in somebody that can have the stature of Virgil. But I will say, I think Virgil needs to be a little bit more... what's the word I'm looking for here? Not tenacious. A little bit less languid. A little bit more speedy. A little bit more tempo. A little bit more demanding more. Quicker. Not this shit. More. Just get into them. Quicker. Move the ball. And what's wrong with our centre-backs trying to break the line occasionally as well? You know? Do you remember when we used to have like Matip who go and gallops up the field? I'd like a bit more of that as well, please. You know, I don't know if Slot just doesn't want people taking on players or something, but it feels like we have an adverse reaction to trying to take a man on. The legend said, I personally still think you are favourites, but are you saying that to take the pressure off yourself? Or are you saying that because you really feel it? Because I don't know at the moment, mate, if I still think we're favourites. I think we're in the race and we'll be thereabouts, but you know, if I don't start to see an improvement soon, I'm going to feel like something will catch up with us. But I feel like we should be the favourites, is probably the fairest way I can put it. Right, so we asked you who plays right wing when Salah's away, and 81% of the 800 or so votes said it should be Chiesa. And again, that's fully what I expected. On the somebody else vote, genuinely would wonder who that could be, unless you're talking about moving Rio to the right or something like that. Or maybe Szoboszlai could be the answer there, I guess, for some people as well. This one said Wirtz is the worst signing so far. Hard to argue against it, but I don't know what the tone is. Like, because if I sat here and said to you, he's the one I haven't been most disappointed with, I'd be lying to you. But I don't think he's been as bad as some people make out, nor do I have any doubt about him becoming the player we think he's going to be. So I'm not at a point of anger or frustration with him. But I still think the sentiment of what you've said, if we were to judge the new signings and how they've played for us, it's probably a toss-up with Frimpong, you know, because Frimpong hasn't exactly been pulling up trees either. So maybe the focus has been more with the price tag on Wirtz, which is understandable. It was a huge amount of money. But like I said, I don't think Frimpong's been pulling up any trees either. Will Chiesa be sold next summer? Do you know what, mate? I really don't know. I think we'll probably figure that out over the next few weeks to see how much Arna plays him or not. Or probably the next month or two, sorry. Because I probably would have guessed he would have been sold this summer, dude. Now, maybe, like I said, the tragic passing of Diogo could have thrown the plans awry a little bit. But I hope not. Because I hope he finds a way to convince Arna. Because he'd be a very good player for us to have on our squad to utilise. Or to a very good starter if he gets back to the player we know he is. Pascal said, he's the worst because of the cost involved. The worst is Frimpong, all things considered. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when you come in and you underperform as a £116 million signing, yes, the limelight's going to be on you. But I agree with you. I do think you could make an argument that Frimpong hasn't been a roaring success yet either. But again, not trying to knock anybody. It was a question I was asked that I was trying to give an honest answer to. Or a statement, sorry, that was made that I was trying to give an honest reply to. Right, ladies and gents. If I could ask you a quick favour, if you can hit that like button for me, would appreciate it. I'm going to say my goodnights to you guys, and the podcast is coming out in 7 minutes. So if you are looking for 40 minutes to spend, and I set Chris up something beautifully in this podcast, by the way, with a bit of a joke. So do keep your eye on it, or maybe not a joke, but a funny sentiment. So yeah, let me know what you think of it. I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. And again, appreciate your feedback and everything. Thank you for being here with me tonight as always. And yeah, we'll see